Welcome, Ofir. Are you there?
I'm here. Thank you for inviting me. I didn't understand a word you're saying. I heard my name was thrown in, but I'm hoping everything's true.
Yeah, don't worry.
All right.
So the stage is all yours. Good luck.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So just a second before I start my presentation, hello again. Thank you very much for inviting me for this great conference. I've heard some of the talks prior to this, and it's really interesting to see how design thinking is actually done in different aspects of industries, of organizations, the government, and whatever. In my and now I'm going to start my presentation. Hopefully you can all see it. In my very short presentation, I'm going to try and limit it to 20 to 25 minutes to leave some room for Q&A at the end. I'm going to try and take you with me on a journey to see what happened within the Israeli experience regarding digital health and COVID-19, and to try and utilize this case study in order to understand what we did and what we see that we are still in need to do later on within the whole digital health ecosystem. And as the title mentioned, never let a good crisis go to waste, what we can do in order to implement different policy, different implementations within with regarding to COVID-19 and many other things. As I'm sure was mentioned, my name is Ofir Marer, the head of policy and regulation within the digital health department for the Israeli Ministry of Health. So in my short presentation, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about three different aspects. First of all, I want to talk about the normal, what we had prior to COVID, how we interacted within the digital health ecosystem before we even knew and thought about the COVID-19 phenomena, because this was not something that was invented a year ago, 2 years ago, and etc. And we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. Later, we'll talk about COVID-19 and how it interacted and impacted our digital health strategy within this time span. And later on, we'll try and talk about and think about the new normal and how are we going to design the new ways of operating within this stage. So let's start off with talking with a brief introduction on the digital health ecosystem, within Israel. So I'm not going to elaborate this a lot, and I'm not going to talk about it a lot at all, but we need to understand that worldwide there is changes within the healthcare systems, no matter which country you are, in Chile, in Israel, in the US, in the UK, or whatever you are in the entire world, because we see rapid population aging and growth. Chronic diseases that are increasing, health medications that are becoming much more expensive, and a lot of public expectation that is constantly growing and growing. So the idea of interacting with digital transformation tools in order to help those aspects to see this not as challenges but as opportunities sometimes is not something new, and it's not something that is unique to Israel. However, within the Israeli ecosystem, we already had some basic infrastructure in order to make sure that our digital ecosystem grow. A few that I can mention is, first of all, information, understanding that information is strength. Over the past 25 years, we are here in Israel using a digital EMR, meaning that every patient has its own unique identification and its own unique patient record, electronic patient record that is stored within his HMO, within his provider, that is constantly growing and accumulating every information that it is, of course, for his own purposes, for his own medical reasoning, but as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, for other purposes as well. The second thing that we need to understand is that our health system is very good. And we take pride on it. It's central management and regulated within the Ministry of Health, mostly public health system. Some are governmental, some are public, some are NGOs, philanthropy organization. But every citizen within the Israeli country is covered by universal coverage by one of the four HMOs. So again, a very small market, only 9 million people, so we're not a lot of cases within here. So that comes in mind. The third thing that we need to acknowledge is that we are a startup nation, meaning that we have a lot of R&D, we had a lot of technology within different scopes of that, not only in medicine and in health, but also in automobile and in cybersecurity and a lot of other issues that help us to incorporate those elements within the digital health ecosystem. The last thing is that I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes as well, is that we didn't say, all right, let's see what's going to happen and hope for the best. No, actually, in 2018, we launched a 5-year plan in order to increase the digital health ecosystem and to help it grow. And I'm going to present it in a few seconds, so I'm not going to talk about it now. So as you saw, there's the whole spectrum of worldwide elements. There's the unique aspect for Israel, and within the years, there was a real growth of an Israeli digital ecosystem. Today, a very small country, we have more than 500, the number is not even up to date, more than 550 innovative digital health companies. That's in addition to pharmaceutical companies and a lot of other vectors that are within the country. 25 years of data, we've mentioned. 100 active investors within the sector with in Israeli presence, 32 multinationals, 40 hospitals, 4 HMOs, and many other organizations that all promote health and all promote digital health transformation. And that is in every sector that you can think about within the innovative digital health companies. So starting with clinical workflow, remote monitoring, assistive care, device care, and a lot of other issues. Again, more than 500 different company solutions within the ecosystem. And I've already talked about it, that it didn't start it yesterday, didn't start it a year ago, and not even two. 2015 marked a real transition within the Israeli Ministry of Health strategy, where we first published our digital health strategy that mandated system transformation with clinical transformation, all within the concept of human-centered care and sustainable healthcare. All of those aspects were basically derived from one element, which is electronic medical records, but not only. Also research, clinical use, secondary usage of clinical data with big data, with analytics, with AI. And that comes on top of our care, our primary use of clinical data in order to achieve all of those aspects. Within the system, to create new care models, to new collaboration, new professions and skills to incorporate within the system. And within the clinical transformation, to understand that the 4 Ps has to be implemented: personalized, predictive, preventive, and proactive. This was done with 3 main pillars that all were entrusted within, of course, the Ministry, but not only for the entire ecosystem: policy, incentives, and infrastructure. Each one of those elements were important in order to make sure that our policy and our transformation and our strategy implemented well. And again, I talked about it a few minutes ago. Our major program that was launched in 2018 was 1 billion shekels, roughly $250 million plan, a 5-year plan to increase and to advance our Israeli health system to be one of the world leader in digital health solution, to promote our clinical academic research, and to create another national growth engine within the digital health sector. We are currently in year 3 out of 5 and starting to think of the next stage. COVID, as you will see in a few minutes' time, has changed a lot of our presumptions, but we are constantly planning and seeing how we can advance to a better world. So as I mentioned, that was a brief introduction of the normal, of what we had before COVID happened. And as you already know, and as I mentioned, the world is with shared understanding and shared challenges. And when COVID happened, that basically changed the entire situation. It kind of pull our chair behind us and let us fall, and it mandated us to create a new paradigm shift. There was and maybe still is in need to create new models of care, to utilize every data that is available, sometimes creating new data sets and new data platform, and to promote integration of innovative technologies in every sector of healthcare providers. And this in Israel, with this new COVID-19 program, came in a lot of aspects. And I'm going to try and briefly introduce each one of them. Sorry. Each one of them, not going to go into really specific, but maybe one or two more than the others. But again, to understand that this is a holistic solution, not just a one-time thing, not just one screwdriver that we have to make sure that it's happening, but an holistic solution and something that looks at the entire scope of the ecosystem. So the first thing that we understood that needs to happen was the data usage. And this relates to tests, to active patient, to different disease, to trends, to scattering, to R rate, and a lot of other things. And we saw that in the need to collect, to analyze, and then to enable. Of course, this was not something new. We had different dashboards, we had different organizations that collected the data, but this time it had to happen faster, it had to be much more precise, and had to happen on a nationwide level. The second thing is, again, something that everyone around the world now know. A few months ago, nobody actually understood what contact tracing is, but now we had to introduce new method to allow our contact tracing teams to create a better way to do those contact tracing. Sorry. One of the ways was to promote new AI and big data tools to the system itself, to utilize diverse technologies and to create something that visualize the different data that is created within the system. But the second thing is that we had to balance it with different contact tracing tools. For instance, this is the Shield or Hamagen, which is our own Israeli-made innovative app that was designed for every person within the country to download it and to create a personal, not shared with anyone else, but a personal contact tracing app with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or cellular connection in order to create another layer of contact tracing, but in a balanced way. The third thing that I want to emphasize is the importance of R&D when you're dealing with this crisis, when we are doing this. And we saw three main issues that worth mentioning. First of all, we acted in a way to incentivize the industry to innovate within different challenges that we had. We had 8 unique calls for proposal, 2 of them specifically for digital health, not only, but those were specifically for digital health, with over 400 proposals and over 15 million US dollars in direct funding for companies in order to achieve innovative solutions. The second thing was to make our world data accessible via data.gov.il, which is our Israeli open shared data platform, meaning that every researcher, of course, without the identified information and nothing that can be traced back to one singular person, but with every single data that a researcher can utilize without the need for any bureaucratic way, of course, for multiple and more elaborate data, they had to do a process in order to get approved, but these data were openly accessed and still are in our platform. And the third thing, which is most important, is to make sure that we had our intergovernmental R&D corporation. I'm sorry, one sec, the light went off. Intergovernmental R&D corporation. We established a multi-organization task force that took our military and our innovative authority and our digital ministry and different universities and if all organizations within the countries and made sure that everyone is working on the same things with the same perspective, led by the Ministry of Health, but in a cooperation that everyone can be a part of. Next thing is public engagement. Again, one of the most important things to need in order to get information and to deliver it. We did a lot of things. Two are worth mentioning. Mobile application to create a new community in order to get answers for questions, to promote new ways of understanding the situation within the country in a multiple language area, Hebrew, English, Arabic, and we're working on more language to be added as we go along. Second thing is a multi-channel strategy, meaning that we're not just using the regular media, we're not just doing commercials, we're not just doing Facebook Live, we're doing everything we can in order to make sure that the public engagement is real and fulfilling. Another interesting thing is the monitoring and prediction. So again, two tools that were happening on the grounds in different areas of operation, but in the healthcare system, not as much. And what we did was almost in a month time, we introduced a new application that were designed to help the different HMOs, which is in charge of the community care, because as you know, COVID patients are a lot of them, and not all of them are staying in the hospital because we don't need to overflow the hospital. So a lot of them went into the care of the community. And in order for us to help the HMO and the ones who are in charge of those, we created a new monitoring app that asks on a daily basis a questionnaire to understand and to trace those different patients and to allow us sometimes to understand different anomalies that happen. On the second thing is we wanted to understand the public, not only the patient themselves, but in order to predict different opportunities in different stages of those elements, we wanted to make it public, but also personal. The ecosystem was also very important because we are not alone in this. And we wanted to make sure that the industry, the academia, the health organization, the government, not only us within the ministry, but all regulators, and of course other international bodies, governmental and other organizations, would be in sync. And that's why we created a marketplace for challenge and solution. We allowed knowledge sharing within the organization. And at the end, we also promoted international cooperation. And now I don't have to say that, but in Chile, we already had a lot of cooperation within the digital health ecosystem, led by the Israeli embassy within Chile. And of course, if you want to hear more, you can approach me or the embassy, of course. But that was enhanced within the scope of COVID because it's a shared phenomenon for all. The last thing, and I'm not going to elaborate about it a lot, even though it was really a humongous thing, because telemedicine is now the thing, because you had to create new platform in order to interact with people and to share data and information. So we actually had a 10-year leap in 5 months. So we had to introduce new short-term telemedicine solution, chat, voice, video, and other things that were, as I mentioned, was supported by earlier regulation and policy changes that were already implemented. So it was not something new from out of the blue, but we had to make sure it was enhanced and much bigger. Now, that was the first and second wave of COVID. And as I said, we had a lot of issues to resolve. We had a strategy to change from the beginning and till the end of it. But now, and we're not finished with the second wave. Hopefully we are, but as we all know, COVID is here to stay with us. So now when we're thinking of going ahead to the new normal, how are we going to interact? What are we going to do within our policy, within our strategy, within our implementation? We look to the new normal. And with it, we see that the world and COVID and the healthcare system, it's very complex, it's uncertain, it's going to take a lot of time. Digital health is not a magic bullet, as you see, but instead of seeing it as challenges, we can also see it as opportunities. And this can be examined with a lot of different questions of different various or areas of expertise for engagement and regulation and infrastructure and accelerate. And we can ask different questions like, can we promote full scale integration? How are we going to maintain the leap that we've done for years to come? What other countries can we learn from and benchmark from them? How can we be fast and innovative with our regulation, but still secure and balance the safety and privacy of our people? And a lot of other issues and a lot of questions that deal with multiple areas of expertise. These are only a few examples of those issues. How to evaluate tech in digital health, standardization, a national strategy that is going to be updated again and again and again. Our HIE, Health Information Exchange, how we create interoperable AI, of course, and a lot of issues that needs to be resolved now and later on. And again, I've promised I'm going to keep it to 20 to 25 minutes, and I think I'm on time. With a final remarks from me, with the looking forward stage, is that what we saw during this process, and we're going to continue on doing for future years. So the first thing is that you have to understand you have to act immediately. You have to take immediate measures in order to prepare the healthcare system with the next pandemic wave. The flu I mentioned, we have a first strain yesterday, so it's a fluvid or cold or flu, whatever you want to call it. So you have to make sure that you have measures taking place right away. But right after that, you have to utilize every capability you have in order to learn, to understand with the public, with the data, with different models, and to understand what you are doing in order to see where you are and what you did, good or bad. Next stage is to adjust your policy, to adjust your implementation, your incentives, your interaction with different stakeholders, and transform the current mode of operation with adapting changes. They are constantly changing. Use agility, use in the different policy and practice and cooperation, be fast and be precise. The last thing is once again act. You have to allow new and innovative technologies within the ecosystem. You have to incorporate new methods. You have to enable the ecosystem. And then after all of it, once again, go from the beginning and start again. Because it's an ongoing process that's not going to change. Not because of COVID by itself, but because that's the world we are living in. That's the way that we are interacting today. So this is my main issue for you. As I said, we had the previous knowledge that we came to COVID with different infrastructure, with understanding, with different policies that we had to shift them around very fast within COVID and to advance them in order to promote new and innovative ways. But now we have to continue on doing it with learning and adjusting and then acting. And with that, I'm gonna leave time. I think I'm on the time and on the minute. And I think I'm gonna move to questions if possible, in the hopes that you've heard everything I said. Hopefully. Right?
Thank you so much, Ofir, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So we have some questions from the audience. I'm going to read them in Spanish first and then in English for you, okay?
All right.
¿Este proyecto fomenta de alguna manera el ecosistema emprendedor en Israel? ¿Cómo? Does this project foster in any way the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Israel? How?
Well, I think, as I mentioned before, our ecosystem was up and running prior to COVID, so it's not something new. And the the way that we worked was to promote those ecosystems on a daily basis. When COVID came along, it enhanced the situation and allowed us a better and faster way to interact with all of the members within the ecosystem. Again, government, but also health organization, providers, the public, industry, academic, everyone within the system. And we thought and we saw that innovative solutions to challenges that we sometimes as a government, as a regulator, sometimes as a health organization could not be resolved by alone by ourselves, could happen within the ecosystem, within the innovative ecosystem. So I think, yes, challenges makes us come into the area of innovative and industry, health organization, governmental corporation, and that is a very important issue and aspect of our solution later on. Hopefully that answers the questions.
Yeah, I think you did.
All
Well,
right.
because of time, we only had one question for you, but thank you so much for being here with us.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.